It's a double blind matchup sent in by a fan of the channel, and I couldn't be more excited to dive in. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So that's right, today we have a true double blind sent in by a huge supporter of the channel, someone who's been with us for a while, Carl Schwarber. Huge shout out to you. Thank you so much for setting this up for me. You guys know I love to test my palate, try new whiskeys, but I don't often get to do true double blinds, and so this is really exciting. I have literally no idea what these whiskeys are. I do have the little key that Carl sent in, so we will be looking at that at the end to figure out what we've been sipping on. But for now, there's really nothing left to do. I can't really set up the blind. I can't really tell you what's in here, so there's nothing left to do but jump into the nose and palate and finish. Find out what we've got in front of us. All right, so let's just go into Glass A here. Interesting. It's different. I feel like it's different than most things I've ever smelled. There's some spice and sweetness. There's some sort of berry note, I think. Pretty delightful, pretty sweet and spicy. Maybe a maltiness. I'm not exactly sure. That might be what's throwing me off. Yeah, it might be some sort of malty characteristic that I'm getting, but again, I have no idea what this is and still training my palate, and my nose. There's something darker going on. I don't know if it's like a touch of chocolate or dark chocolate, but there's some of those lighter, brighter notes too, like a honey, maybe a slight lemon zest. I mean, there's kind of a lot going on there, and it's different than most profiles I have in my memory bank at this point for different whiskeys, so gonna be interesting to see what that's like on the palate. Let's go into Glass B here on the nose. A little bit more subdued, but more like vanilla, some caramel, so a little bit more traditional smelling. A slight floral nature to this one, but not overwhelming at all. There's a little bit of spice here too, maybe a slight rye touch. Maybe some lighter berries like a strawberry, I don't know exactly. But this one just has a softer nose overall. Glass A, I feel like, had maybe a little bit darker, a little bit spicier nose, and Glass B here is just a little bit softer. Let's go to Glass C on the nose here. Oh, okay, that's definitely different. More oak, maybe a touch of peanut. A little bit of spice here too. But I'm definitely getting some of those darker notes like oak. The spice is maybe a little bit more cigar-like than rye forward. But there is maybe a sweeter fruit note here too. That one's a little bit softer with its sweetness, and it came through with that oak presence a little bit more. So interesting progression. Let's go to Glass D now. Oh, okay. That's the most rye-like to me, or at least strikes me as like a high rye bourbon. It's got this, I think it might be like a green apple note, spicy, citrus as well. The thing that this reminds me of in my memory banks again is like a smoke wagon. So I have a smoke wagon uncut, unfiltered, and this is nice. It's nice like that nose. It's close to that. Maybe like a strawberry, even like a kiwi kind of note here. Something a little bit tart. Some honey as well. Kind of floral. All right. So cool lineup here. I don't think any of these is jumping out to me as particularly like a front runner in terms of nose. I think Glass D probably has the strongest nose, just jumping out of the glass the most. I might be leaning toward glass C just because I like that oaky note, but we're gonna have to really dig into the palate because that's when we're gonna get so much more information. So without further ado, let's jump into glass A on the palate. Cheers, everybody. That's nice. It's very similar to what I was getting on the nose. There is maybe a slight chocolatey note. There's definitely a fruit note in there. Actually, that tastes a little bit more similarly to what I was getting on Glass D now, like maybe a strawberry note, something along those lines. There's a good vanilla sweetness underneath that as sort of a base, maybe a touch of honey. But this is one that I'm just less familiar with what I'm smelling and tasting, but I'm enjoying it for sure. It's very, very good. It just has maybe a floral, maybe malty something going on that I'm not as familiar with, but quite good and quite tasty. All right, let's get some water. And then we'll go into glass B here on the palate here. Cheers, everybody. Okay, so comparatively, that has a little bit more spice, maybe a little bit more oak. Definitely more oak. I'm getting maybe a touch of like tobacco or leather, especially on the back end. Maybe a darker fruit base, like a dark cherry. Some light notes as well, maybe a honey in there. But that one definitely took a little bit darker turn for me and has a little bit more heft to it, a little bit more oak. Nice. Let's get some more water and dive into glass C on the palate. Cheers, everybody. Yeah, that's really nice. One thing I'm trying to keep track of is like proof and mouthfeel here. That's got nice mouthfeel. I don't think any of these so far have struck me as like particularly high proof though. They're all pretty easy sippers at this point. But that one had that good oak, some peanut, maybe just like peanut shell, just straight up peanuts to me, which is nice. Some caramel and vanilla as well. A little touch of spice, but not too much. So that one to me speaks of just a more traditional bourbon sipping experience that I'm used to. These other two maybe have a little bit more things going on, maybe a little floral note, malty on perhaps glass A. But again, I don't know that much other than mostly what I stay into, which is bourbons and some rye. These could be anything, and that's pretty fun. I'm gonna grab some more water. And then let's go into glass D here on the palate. Cheers. Yep, a lot came through from that nose. That's definitely the spiciest. I think it's probably the highest proof, or it's just the most rye content. But for me, it's got that like green apple kind of juiciness at the center of it, some spice, some honey. It's a little bit floral. But there are some darker notes, some barrel notes, a little bit of vanilla as well. But that one jumps out to me as like the spiciest and potentially most rye forward. So again, operating from all memory banks here, really cool lineup. I think D stands out as a little bit higher proof, but all of these are tasting very nice and have very different unique profiles. So I am gonna go back from D to A now and do some A-B comparisons throughout this whole process. I'll give you a little recap of how that goes, but for now, we'll just fast forward through a lot of that for you guys. All right, everybody, that took a little bit of time. Lots of A-B testing was done, comparing a lot of these different ones. They have sort of stayed very similar. Some new things have developed over time. I think Glass B in particular has gotten more sweet with a vanilla sweetness coming through. Glass A continues to puzzle me. It's got more of like a cinnamon nature to it. A couple times I thought I got more of like a French toast, but then it kind of swings in a different direction. And there's just flavor notes in there that I'm not as familiar with. Glass C here, I continue to get that nice nuttiness and oak, really, really nice. And then Glass D for me is, again, reminding me of that like smoke wagon, some citrus, some juicy fruits, and jumping out of the glass quite a bit. All that being said, I do think I have my order here in terms of what I'm preferring tonight. You know, your palate, it's a day-by-day experience, but I think I've picked out my order here. So, in fourth place tonight, and this is one that packs quite a bit of flavor, but I'm just struggling with it, and that is Glass A. So Glass A, I was just not super certain about, and it has a note in there that is just not my favorite. I'm enjoying a lot of the elements of it, and it actually has probably, next to Glass D, it has the most flavor offered here. I'm just struggling a little bit with some note that's sitting at the center of this. So Glass A is in fourth place. Let's just run through the whole thing and then we'll do a reveal of what everything is. In third place, I actually had Glass B. I felt like while I loved the vanilla sweetness on this, the spice kick that certainly hits on the back end, there's a little touch of oak here as well, a little bit of spice, maybe a cherry sweetness. It's really, really good. I just preferred the other two. So for me, Glass B comes in third place. Again, between Glass B, C, and D, it was really close. I don't think any of these was like so much better than the other. But for me, in second place was Glass C. So we just kind of went in order here. I really like that spicy, peanutty, oaky characteristic I'm getting on the nose, and the palate really carries through with that. But for me, Glass D was the winner. Glass D just had the most punch to it, the most presence. It's really nice and floral and sweet, and there's a honey, citrusy, juicy fruit going on there that I feel like just stands out the most in my mind, and so I've got to give it top spot. All right, let's see. Let's use the key here and see what we were sipping on tonight. All right, so Glass A here was Old Elk Port Wine Finish. All right, 108.1 proof. So actually has a good amount of proof on it. But for me, that's probably what was throwing me off, that port wine. I couldn't place it, and now it makes a lot of sense. It does have those deeper, dark notes and a little bit of chocolate. It's just, for me, for some reason, that just wasn't my favorite. But I can acknowledge that this has like a lot of punch to it in terms of the nose, and the palate brings a lot of flavor. So there's a lot going on there. I think most Old Elk stuff is pretty highly weeded as well, so that could be messing with me a little bit with the port wine finish. Still, it's got lots of flavor, just it was throwing me off. All right, then we had Glass B here in third place. That was Discovery Series number 6. Wow, 111.1 proof. It's got some good spice. It's got sweetness. As it opened up, it got a lot more vanilla. There's a good berry note in there as well. I mean, it's a really nice whiskey. Again, I was actually enjoying this whole blind matchup a lot, but I can see that. I can see the Discovery. Kind of complex. The sweetness and spice certainly jump out to me. All right, let's go to Glass C here. This was in third place, and this was, all right, that is a Yellowstone bourbon pick. So 102 proof. All right, really nice. I really like that oak and the nuttiness. There's some good barrel characteristics here. There's a good vanilla. Maybe a touch of honey as well. Okay, so a good pick that they made there. Wow, really, really nice. And then that puts first place as, yeah, so here it says, I think it's J. Mattingly Rye Pie Pick. So it's 119 proof. I was right about that being the highest proof, the most punch. Carl here has written down one hell of a pick. So I agree, Carl. Wow, this is really good. Reminds me a heck of a lot of a Smoke Wagon. I wonder, are they sourcing MGP stuff? I don't know, but you can totally tell that this has a rye punch Rye pie, huh? That's cool. It's really, really nice, and it's got such a good rye presence to it. And you know what? I found myself really gravitating toward enjoying ryes and how much different and how punchy their flavors can be. This Yellowstone pick, though, really, really nice. I think that just fits my profile. I've actually never had anything Yellowstone before, so that's really interesting. This Discovery, again, really, really nice. The difference between this one and the other two was pretty slight. I'll have to revisit this a little bit. But yeah, this Old Elk port wine, that just threw me off. I could not place that. Didn't have enough in the memory banks to really figure out what that was, but now that I smell it, yeah, it's got that port kind of characteristic. All right, everybody, that's gonna do it here on this blind matchup. Again, Carl, I want to say a huge thanks to you for helping set this up, and I agree with you. The big winner, the rye pie pick, what a really nice pick. Gonna have to explore more of that for sure. Let me know, guys, what you thought in the comments below. If you've tried any of these whiskeys, let me know. If you've had any of these types of picks, if you've had Discovery, give me the lowdown on that. And then Old Elk, this port wine really threw me off. Let me know what you like or don't like about that whiskey if you've been able to taste it. Until I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey, keep trying new things, and cheers.